Are you ready for something new? Then you've got to let go of the old.
Hey, creating maven. I'm Joy Spencer, your Reframe specialist, with one important message. Your real work, it's not your job or your career. Your real work is what you create. And what you create is what sets you apart and makes you incomparable. It's your legacy. I'm here to show you a whole new way of working so you can create with your gifts, make a unique contribution, and finally get paid to be yourself. This is Reframe to Create.
I'm a chronic overpacker. It's only recently that I've been able to take a flight without checking in any luggage. Yay me! I was very proud. And I have this just in case outfits and the just in case policy for shoes, right? Which is what has typically led to me overpacking. And this chronic overpacking and accumulating stuff has been the bane of my life for almost all of my life. And, at least the bane of my traveling life. So by the time I was leaving college, I was carting around boxes of books and papers that I'd accumulated from elementary school. Yeah. I recently found and scanned a creative writing story I wrote in the 5th grade called Jasmine and Friends. Loved it. Very cute story, by the way. I just typically have historically not been able to let go of stuff. And maybe you can identify, there's that thing, that project or whatever in your life that you've been holding on to or that you cart around or been carting around for years. For a lot of people, it's clothing. And, because it's yours, it's so important. I get it. But the thing is, my creating maven, that thing or those things that you've got your hand so tightly wound around, it's keeping you from being able to open your hand and receive the new. It's holding you back. You know this. And think about it. Let's use the analogy of the monkey bars, right? Think about the monkey bars when we were kids. And I can see myself doing it right now. I used to love the monkey bars, like love, 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 love. I had this practice, this habit, this is my thing when I was younger. I would only wear dresses and skirts as a kid. But I would still insist on wearing a pair of shorts underneath my dress or my skirt so that I could swing on the monkey bars and hang upside down and do all sorts of things, without, any sort of concerns. Don't judge my costume choice. If you remember, if you're thinking back to yourself on the monkey bars, you know that the greatest skill any good monkey barer, just made up that word, the greatest skill any monkey barer has is the skill of letting go. If you grab onto the next bar while you're still holding onto the last bar, you're just going to be dangling there. Your legs are just going to be dangling in limbo. You'll be going nowhere, doing nothing except catching blisters. But if you want to move forward, you have to let go of the bar behind you. And you have to let go of it again and again and again and again to keep moving forward. It's the same in our lives and with the things that are in our lives, whether it's physical, emotional, or mental things that we're holding on to. And it's the things that we're holding on to instead of letting go so that we can make room for the new and move forward and have room and space to create, right? And as I shared in episode 65, what to do when you feel stuck and unclear, I recently moved. And before that, I'd spent almost 2 years before that point of slowly decluttering. I was on the slow declutter journey and I was letting go, making room for the new. I just had to let go to have more space and lightness and even to be able to have the mental space also to be able to make the move, and in a way that I wanted to make it. And the gift that was given to me in that process is what I talked about wanting for you in episode 5, Reframe Your Environment to Unleash Your Creating Power. I got my creating power back through that process. I've gotten my creating power back through this, process in the recent years. This ability now that I have to consistently, more on a regular basis, create on this rhythm, create for this podcast. I know it's something that many of you guys are struggling and have talked about and shared with me about struggling on your creating journey, that consistency and staying on the bike and continuing on. I'm telling you, your environment, your physical environment, your mental, emotional environment It's what holds the key. And if you can declutter it and get some of that old that's holding you back out, you'll find this wellspring of untapped potential. You'll find that you'll be able to reclaim your creating power in a way that you haven't before. So as we close out this year, I don't want you to take anything that's going to weigh you down and hold you back in the new year. I want you to feel light and ready for action because we've got a lot of things to do in the new year. I want you to be ready to activate your gifts and create in a way that you haven't before. But we've got to let go. You've got to let go. So here's an exercise I came up with for myself that I found to be a game changer when I was decluttering and getting ready to move. And I want you to try it on. First, try it on for your physical space. And then think about it in terms of activities and projects that are taking up your time right now. So you can do it in these two different categories. Use this to help you clear your plate for the new year so that we're ready to go. So I call this the best and the rest. And it has 3 steps you repeat in a cycle. First, you pick the category of things that you're decluttering. Maybe it's your makeup bag, your tools, or your volunteer projects, whatever it is. You start out by picking a category. Then step 1 is dividing the things in this category into the best and the rest. You ask yourself, what's the one thing I want to keep? Like just one thing. Like if everything had to go, what's the one thing I want to keep? I did this exercise as my makeup bag, and it's fascinating for me because contrary to what I thought, which was I'll immediately be overwhelmed with options or stuff like that, I actually couldn't pick one, which I guess is great. There wasn't anything in the bag that I was like, oh, I must keep this thing. So I was like, interesting. Oh, this is useless, which is fine, which is great. But I was still gonna keep stuff. But that was great information. It was like, this is not like life or death priority for me. When you're thinking about what's so important, and it's good to do these exercises to see what emerges, right? But then when I sat with it for a little bit, I went through it again and I pulled out one mascara, one eyeliner, a favorite lipstick, and then I put everything into the rest pile. I know I was cheating a little bit. I had like 3 things. But that's the first step, like that big category of thinking of the best and the rest. Now, when you look at the rest pile, it doesn't automatically mean that that's like a junk pile or anything like that, or it's terrible, it's bad, or it's trash. But it's just to give your mind a break. This is about clarifying your thoughts, clarifying your mind. So dividing between what's the ultimate, the best, the highest, the most important, your favorite, and the rest is going to give you a good and important starting point to just clarify, like, okay, what is important here? Like, what do I really want in this space? And then that's when something interesting happened for me, which is what became step 2. And step 2 is called, what I call the rest and the worst. So when I was looking at this rest pile, right? So I've got the best, pulled out a couple things, and then I was looking at the rest. In the rest pile, I immediately started seeing some things that were clear as day to me as just like the worst, trash, crap. They were the categorical opposite, on the opposite spectrum of the best. So it was just easy. I just quickly chucked those things. It was like easy breezy, because there was like, they just couldn't compare. It was just like absolutely worthless. I was like, okay, got rid of that. Then I came to step 3, and step 3 was the rest and the trial. Now I'm back to my, smaller, the rest pile, but it's still big. And so this stuff was stuff I was going to put on trial because I wasn't sure. So for a period of about, 2 weeks max, I was like, okay, I'm going to see if I can put this on a usefulness trial. So these are things that I kept out in the open. And now I'm sort of switching examples. I did this with my shoes, right? So I have a lot of shoes. So after I pulled out the best and got rid of what I thought was the worst, I had like this big chunk that was in my on trial pile. And so I was going to see, okay, are these things useful, right? Let me test it out. These are shoes I haven't worn in a while. I believe I want them. So what I did was to force my irritation. I left them out in the open. They wouldn't hide in the closet. So they were there, they were in a space, they were annoying me, and I had to try them on and put them on trial and see Are they useful? Does it still feel good? Do I still really like it? Or am I just imagining and fantasizing that I want to use these things? So now at this point, I have 3 categories. I have the best, at the top of the charts. And then I have the rest. And then that rest pile has been split into 2, which is like the obvious worst that's been gotten rid of. And then this trial period of usefulness pile. And this was just amazing. This was game changing. Because by the time I was done, especially with my shoe trial, I was like, okay, fine. Let's be real. You're not wearing this high heels anymore post-COVID, not wearing those type of shoes anymore. And so what I ended up with was a new best and new the rest pile, which I could set aside and come back to later. And that's what you'll end up having. And you can keep cycling back and narrowing down your pile more and more and more. And I'm talking about your physical pile, but this is something you can also do, once you've done this physical piece to flex your muscles. You can do this with an activity. And so this has been working for me, not just, as I said, not just in the physical realm, but with activities when I'm thinking about the mental and emotional stuff that I want to declutter. So this is what it looked like when I turned this question away from physical stuff to the activities that I'm involved with. I asked myself the question, what's the most important thing to me right now that I want to be involved in, activity-wise? And among the top stuff, I was thinking about it in the category of creating consistently. And what I wanted was to create consistently for Reframe to create this podcast, right? So it was like podcast, that's it. Top of the list. Okay, there it is. Then everything is like the rest. And I don't even have to sort through the lower of those priorities. I just know that this is the best, right? For me, like Reframe to create, that's what I want to create. And so then I thought, well, what's the absolute worst and most useless thing that I'm possibly doing that's not helping, me creating with Reframe to create? The thing that's the direct opposite, maybe the greatest sabotage. It's so clear that this is a thing to drop wholesale. And for me, that was my Netflix subscription, because it was keeping me up at night. Like I was binge watching. I would spend big chunks of time over the weekend, getting sucked into a show that I was like, no, I'm just going to watch one episode. And next thing I've watched a whole season. And so it was making it impossible for me to have a fresh mind in the morning and to be able to create consistently. So I was just like, okay, that's the worst. I don't need that. Chuck it. There's just something that happens in your mind when you've identified the best single thing that you want to focus on, the best thing that's most important. There's just something that happens when you identify that thing and let everything else automatically fall into the rest pile. It's so clarifying. And it's not that the things, I want to emphasize again, it's not that the things that fall into your rest pile are not important at all, or that you're going to absolutely dump them or chuck them. It's just that you finally have a priority, right? And the power that you need and the power that comes into your life by having a priority, that laser-like infusion of power, right? So I want you to try it. First, for your physical space in categories, maybe do it with your desk or your makeup bag or your kitchen cabinet, tool set, whatever. This is an experiment. There's no intended goal. It's just meant to give you that information that's going to help you flex this priority setting muscle. And then try it for your activity list. Ask, what's the most important way that I want to be spending my time right now? The single most important thing. And then sit with that and sit with how everything else simply falls into the rest pile. And you'll get into digging into the rest pile later. But first, just see how it feels to separate the best from the rest. So this is what it is, my creating maven. If you want to create more, you need room. You need physical room. You need mental room. You need emotional room. You need space. And often that space is, as I said, it's that physical, but also not just physical. And if you want to create more, you've got to make that room. You've got to declutter. So try it out. Try these questions, this stuff that I've shared. But first, stop. Please stop. Say no more to some of the things that you're bringing into your life, physically and activity-wise. Lock the door. Refuse to take any more stuff or another activity before the end of the year. Put everything on pause. You've got to get control on what's coming in first. And then pick a category. First start with the physical and then move on to the activity declutter. And ask, what's best that I've got in this category? What's the most important? Write it down. Post it up somewhere. And then walk away. And as you do, looking at the things, that are running through your mind, make note. that all these things are just falling into the rest category. Just keep naming them as the rest. Then after you've given yourself time to sit with that, identify what's the worst, the bottom, the most useless, the most problematic, the most hindering to your best that is now in your rest category, and mark that thing for immediate disposal and letting go. Then get back, focus on the best. Ask, what can I do today that's an investment in or an appreciation for this thing that I've labeled the best? And then go do it. For now, don't worry about that stuff in the middle. Just skip over it. Give yourself time and energy in the best, that you've said is the best that you've been neglecting for a while. I don't want you to agonize over this, before the close of the year. Just, try it out. Try as much as you can. And just try it out as a practice so that you can be ready to clean up your space, your physical space and your project space as we go into the new year. Don't do this alone. Choose an accountability partner. And do that by sharing this episode with one other person who you want to invite to be accountable with you in this exercise. Ask them to listen to it and ask them to pick their thing and to join you in it and talk about it. Talk about what it's feeling like and what's coming up for you guys as you try this out. See how much you can lean into before the end of the year. Because I can't wait to see you on the other side. I can't wait to see you in the new year, ready to create more. We're going to really step it up in the new year. So I hope you fasten your seatbelts and get ready. Let go of the old so that you have room for the new. See you soon, my creating maven. Until then, remember to always ask yourself, what will I create?